Greetings, friends, and welcome to the first episode of Captain Samel's Electric Leisure Dome. I am Captain Samel, and I served in the United States Space Force from 3462 to 3482. I was captain of a waste and recycling freighter, a space garbage truck, if you will, that transported waste materials for disposal into black holes. Now, due to my exposure to gravitational anomalies, I unfortunately developed temporal distortion disorder. I enjoyed 3 years of retirement until 3485, when I woke up one morning and discovered that I had been shunted back in time to the year 1985. I went to the VA to collect my pension, and they told me that they don't recognize temporal distortion disorder, nor do they award benefits for military service that hasn't happened yet. So, I signed up for the Army and did a few years there, just to get some benefits at least, and participated in combat operations overseas. In my time, humanity has long since put armed conflict behind us, and so I found war to be especially regrettable. Now, all that's a bummer, but here's the exciting news. One of the best ways to pass the time on deep space runs was to play video games. As soon as my shift on the bridge ended, I headed straight for the ship's leisure dome for some arcade action. I learned from history that video games were invented at the closing of the 20th century, and what a delight to find myself transported back to that very same period in history. The ability to play the seminal works that created video games is a treasured opportunity to see how it all started, and really heightens my appreciation for what I consider to be an art form. Now, in this time period, I received a Sega Game Gear when I was 8 years old. I'll start by focusing my channel on the games for this system because it's my first love, if you will. I also believe that coverage of Sega Game Gear games is underrepresented on YouTube, and what coverage there is often comes across as a disrespectful joke. One reviewer I recently watched called Sonic 2 on Game Gear outright trash. Well, that's too bad because there's a lot to like about Sonic 2, and a lot to like about the Game Gear and its library. I'm hoping to show that this system and its games deserve a second look so that my fellow gamers won't miss out on some fun, interesting, and quirky titles. Though I intend to focus on the Game Gear, I'll be looking at a few games for other systems as well. My brother had a Game Boy, and even though my Game Gear had color, I was jealous of the innovative games I was seeing him play on the Game Boy. The best of all these games, though, was Ultima: Runes of Virtue 2. This was a top-down, action RPG, open world with fleshed-out NPCs on the Game Boy. Sadly, YouTube sometimes seems like an echo chamber, and somehow this game has been thrown on the garbage pile of games YouTubers love to hate on, and I honestly have no idea why. I consider this game a masterpiece that was ahead of its time, easily in the same league as Link's Awakening, and I look forward to covering it. The Atari 2600 also deserves some love on this channel. My cousin gave my brother and I his Atari 2600 and collection of games when I was about 10 or 11. I continued to collect for the system into my teens when I bought games from a kid at school for 25 cents each. After a few years of enjoying my Game Gear, the capacitors in it died, and I went a few years without much to play. My cousin stepped in again to save the day. For my 13th birthday, he gave me his Sony PlayStation and 2 games. I continued to play the PS1 until I left for the Army at age 18. Now as an adult, I have the opportunity to try games and systems I missed out on as a kid. Today I have a small collection of NES, Super NES, and Genesis games. I especially enjoy the Master System because these games are like remixes of my favorite childhood Game Gear games. I hope that this channel can bring some love and honor to enjoyable but little known and sparsely covered games, and that it will give you ideas about some novel experiences you can try, and maybe even some ideas for games you might like to add to your collection. Welcome.